Welcome, everyone. Welcome. This is episode number 29 of the drunkenly critically acclaimed, soon-to-be award-winning John Sawyer show right here on Strong Island TV. If you are watching us on Facebook Live, we thank you. If you are listening to us on the TuneIn Radio app, we thank you. If you don't have the TuneIn Radio app but wish to get it, you can do so by going to the App Store or Google Play, depending on which service your cellular device carries. Download the app for free, search Strong Island Radio in the search engine, and as long as you have us marked down as one of your favorites, you can listen to us on the go every single week. I am your host, John Sawyer, alongside Mr. Michael Monti. How are you, sir?
Fantastic.
Back for the first time in 2 weeks.
The boss is back, baby, from LOMT.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Before we get rolling with our special guest tonight, I want to mention real quick, we got shirts available now. There's the front right there, little John Sawyer shirt logo, John Sawyer Show logo on the front. And if you look on the back, bigger logo right there with @John Sawyer Show on the bottom. That's where you can find us on Facebook. These shirts will be going on sale on August 14th. I say that because on the 13th, we're going to have a special live pro wrestling trivia show right here in studio. We are currently looking for 4 contestants to join us, and the winner of this contest will receive a John Sawyer Show shirt of their size and of their choosing. I say choosing because they're not just in black. They're also in gray and dark blue. But there's a limited supply as of right now. So if you're watching this and you're interested, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/John Sawyer Show. Send us a message with your name, number, and information, and let us know that you are interested. The sooner you contact us, the more of a chance you'll have of coming on. All right. Enough of the hassle.
Exciting news.
Exciting news. On the line right now from New Jersey. He's a legendary ring announcer par excellence, as the great Jim Ross would say. I almost said late. God, that's insulting. You've seen him in, old school fans have seen him in the NWA, the AWA, the WCW, and the WWWF, run by Vince McMahon Sr. Legendary pro wrestling ring announcer on the line right now, Mr. Gary Michael Capetta. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. Jim's not the late. I'm the almost late. I also want to know, am I allowed to play the trivia game?
If you're welcome to come on. What are you doing on the 13th?
Mr. Capetta, you could play whatever you'd like. I almost feel like we're on an episode of Wayne's World. I just want to bow down to you and say we're not worthy right now.
Well, this way, I kind of figured maybe I'd have an inside line. You'd give me the answer before we went on the air.
Oh, yeah, we can totally milk it and make sure the odds are in your favor.
You owe me. We can do that.
There's no cheating on the John Sawyer Show.
Yeah. None whatsoever, and we don't encourage it. So, off the air, you were just mentioning to us that you are currently 2 days out removed from heart surgery.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now? And tell us what happened.
I'm doing okay. I had never experienced anything like this before. I had a heart attack last week. Kind of knew what, I kind of figured that's what it was, and I went to the hospital the next day, and it's amazing what they can do. I've never been in the hospital before. I've never been a patient before.
Really?
So it was very strange, and I actually watched the whole episode because when we went to the operating room, my blood pressure was too low for them to give me any kind of anesthesia.
Right.
So it's just hats off to all the people that work, like from the EMT people to the nurses and the aides in the hospital and the surgeon. It's amazing how what kind of a system we have and how professional everyone is, and I don't know.
You want to mention the name of the medical facility so you can get good publicity?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Gary, I was telling you before, in 2009, I had open heart surgery. I had an aortic aneurysm and a valve repair, so I guess I kind of know what the feeling is. I didn't have a heart attack, but it is amazing the kind of work they're able to do, and actually just the high performance these hospitals are. It just makes me glad I'm not on socialized medicine.
yeah, like, I'm watching and I'm looking up at the monitor and I'm seeing what he's doing, and then all of a sudden there's a before and after picture up there, and he's talking to me through it and showing me, and it was pretty amazing.
How's the heart muscle? Did it take any damage, or are you okay?
Well, one aorta was, one vessel was repaired. The other, I don't know. I'm going to be on. I need to consult with him again in a couple weeks. So we'll see how that'll.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, we're glad you're doing well, sir.
I had two things. I had two. This is how crazy. So I'm on the table, and the surgeon. I'm probably lucky that he wasn't a wrestling fan. I mean, he knew nothing about like what I do, but I don't know why he started asking me questions. So I started telling him about like wrestling and announcing and my tour that's coming up, and I don't know. I was probably just a little like nervous, so I'm just like spouting off. And but I actually had two things in my mind. We had an appointment for tonight, and I have a convention on Saturday, and I'm just saying I had tickets for Earth, Wind, and Fire Friday night, and I was operated on Friday night, and I just kept on saying to the doctor, I said, come on, can we get this done? We can hop on the train, get up to the Prudential Center, we can get to see the show. And he said, Mr. Capetta, I really don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I was at Citi Field. Earth, Wind, and Fire was incredible. You missed out on a great show.
Yeah, they did one on the West Coast, and then right, because weren't there like 3 or 4 groups together?
Yeah, we had the Doobies, Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Journey, and Steely Dan. And I got to tell you, incredible concert.
Yeah, I saw them about 4 years ago. Now they'll be around. They're not going anywhere. I'll get back to see them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, we obviously know very well of you and who you are. There may be plenty of viewers and listeners right now who are probably not aware of who you are, but I'll quickly fill them in. Legendary ring announcer, worked for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, World Championship Wrestling, American Wrestling Alliance, and the National Wrestling Alliance. Broke into the WWF in the 70s under Vince McMahon Sr. as a ring announcer when Bruno Sammartino was champion at the time. From what I recall, Bruno is your favorite, correct?
Yeah, he's the one that roped me in as a kid to become a fan. Mm-hmm.
So what was it like being in that environment for the first time? And describe the first night that you got called out to the ring to announce a match.
I was terrified. Had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Had absolutely no background. They needed an announcer the week before, and I volunteered, and they said, come back next week and, get cleaned up, so we'll put you in the ring, because I was announcing from the ringside table.
Uh-huh.
And I was just clueless, absolutely clueless. And there's some Gorilla Monsoon was part owner of Capital Wrestling, which was the corporate name of the WWF at the time. And he just, for whatever reason, he liked what he saw, and he asked me to join his team. So I announced for him, and I was with him and the McMahon family for the next 11 years.
Now, what was it like being around Vince Sr. and Vince Jr.? What are they like in a business set environment? I'm sure you've been asked this question hundreds of times before.
Well, this is it's a lot of years ago, and the Vinny, who people know as Mr. McMahon character, he was only a few years older than me, so he was in his early 30s, and he was and his father owned the promotion, so he worked for his father.
Right.
He was pretty arrogant and kind of full of himself. He hasn't probably that much different than people would know of him today.
Now, what were some of the matches you recall announcing for? I'm talking your favorites. Like, I'm sure there weren't anything involving Snuka or George the Animal Steel, huh?
Well, like there were so many so many intense rivalries.
Right.
Probably my favorite from the WWF years was after Sammartino lost his belt, and then eventually Superstar Billy Graham became champion, and Bruno came back to get his belt.
Mr. Capetta, I got a really interesting question, and I don't know what kind of insight you have on this. So Bruno loses to Graham, and then they turn the belt over to Backlund. You're still with the Federation at that point. A lot of shoot interviews are saying that the WWF at the time was going to go belly up with Backlund as champion. Do you remember hearing that kind of information when you were with the company?
That they were going to go belly up because Bob was...
Yeah, when they made the transition to Backlund, that they felt a lot of the wrestlers in the back thought Graham should have just held on to the belt, and they were losing a lot of share, especially at the Garden and the Spectrum.
Well, if I understand your premise correctly, I don't know, whoever has said that it's kind of silly, because if you owned the company and you had the choice of who was going to be your champion, and your business was down so much, why would you allow that to continue so that your business would go, quote unquote, belly up? That's like, it's a choice. It's not a circumstance that you're stuck with.
Well, a lot of the idea behind it is that Vince Sr. was just as arrogant as Junior, and he would not break away from what he had decided to do. He didn't expect Graham to get as popular as he did. And, Zbyszko has been on a few shoot interviews saying that the WWE almost went bankrupt as Backlund as champion.
Yeah, I really don't think that's the case. I do believe that that Vince Sr. wanted Backlund to succeed. I do think that he stuck with him probably longer than he would most any other champion. I think it was a case where he wanted to show that he could make a champion, that it wasn't something that came delivered and, beautifully packaged for him, so he just had to put this main event out. He did have to support those cards with a stronger undercard, for the Garden and for the Spectrum in Philly and Boston and Pittsburgh and so forth. But I really don't think that he would have held on to Backlund as his champion to the point where he would, quote-unquote, go belly up. It's just silly.
What did you think about the possibility of them turning Snook into the world champion? I know you were during that time with the whole possible murder and everything else. Do you have any insight to that?
As far as
Snooker? About Snooker being turned to the world champion, and then then the whole murder situation, and maybe the possible cover-up of the murder.
Yeah, I don't think Snooker needed to be a champion. He really didn't have the persona, and he really wasn't like the guy that would be able to carry the belt in any kind of like a public way for public relations purposes, because he was limited, in his, in expressing himself, and I don't think that's the image they would have wanted to put forth. So I don't know that he was ever really considered as a potential champion, but he was an incredible draw, just based upon his own athletic ability and the way he was packaged as a wild man.
Interesting. I love the feedback. How about Zbyszko? What were your feelings on Larry Zbyszko?
Larry Zbyszko?
Yes, sir.
Larry's a really smart guy. He's had an incredible career. To hear his story about how he became friends in Pittsburgh with Sammartino, just as a kid, admiring Bruno in the neighborhood, and then with time and years later to headline against Sammartino at Shea Stadium. It's an incredible story. It's probably never going to happen again.
Hey, Mr. Capetta, it's John Sawyer again. You mentioned earlier how Bruno Sammartino was one of your favorites and the key influence into wanting you to get involved in the business. When he lost the belt those 2 times, once to Graham and I think Sabisco?
No, Koloff.
Kolof's. My apologies. This is a little bit before my time. But when that happened, what was the environment like behind the scenes, especially in the Madison Square Garden where Bruno was so loved and treated like a king?
Well, the first time that Bruno lost the title, I was not yet announcing.
It was early
But
60s, huh?
it just so happened that as a fan, I was in the audience at Madison Square Garden the night that Ivan Koloff beat Bruno Sammartino. And it's exactly as it's been reported that when it happened, there was silence. It was, you could hear a pin drop. And the ring was surrounded by police immediately. And they quickly escorted Koloff out of the arena. And over the years, I learned that as long as the fans, if they're going to be unhappy, if they're going to really be annoyed about something, if they're going to be like angry to their core, if they're screaming and they're yelling, we're okay. But if there's silence, that's when danger is more possible. Because people aren't venting out. I mean, they're probably stunned by what they see, and they're not venting. And at any time, they can start, the craziest and those that are the most affected by it could start charging the ring. So that's, over the years that I've worked from center ring, that's when it's always the most dangerous, when there's something that's happened that like a bad guy or a villain is responsible for, that he gets away with something or he commits some kind of dastardly deed or something, and the people go silent.
Now let me ask you this. So after Koloff wins the belt, do you think they should have kept the strap on Koloff? I think they transitioned to Pedro Morales, right?
Yeah. Vince Sr. had a certain formula, and the formula was up until Billy Graham. But then Billy Graham was never like a total heel or a total face. But with Sammartino, he had a formula, and he was just continuing that formula with Morales. It's just that the fan base was changing, and there were more people of Latino heritage that were fans, and he was just intent on continuing the formula that had worked for him for so many years.
So obviously, you're a huge Sammartino fan, one of the greatest. Has there ever been a wrestler in your time that you felt met Bruno's legacy?
Has there ever been a wrestler
that has equaled Bruno Sammartino, in your opinion? Or is there anyone on the main roster now in the WWE that can come close?
Like with each generation, there's someone that has that it factor that's special. Sammartino was a god for that time. But you can't take away the effect that Hogan, for instance, had on the professional wrestling industry in mainstreaming it. You can't take away from what Stone Cold Steve Austin did to bring a reality-based era. So each generation has its own era and has its own special people that are able to that are talented enough and connect enough with an audience to change the course of what's about to come. So I'm not one of these old guys who believes that everything in the past was great and that what's today could never equal it. I don't at all. I have a great deal of respect for the athletes of today, and I'm a big supporter of indie wrestling because those men and women are the future of pro wrestling. So I always, in fact, on my stage show, sometimes I'll go on a rant and talk about, if you really are if you really love pro wrestling, you need to support the up and coming performers of today, because that's the future. And if you want pro wrestling industry to continue and to be healthy, these right now is the time to help the young folks, that are training, that will be tomorrow's stars.
It's a really interesting point, and it's well taken. On a couple episodes before on the John Sawyer show, we were discussing the independent circuit, and it's my opinion that the independent scene doesn't put enough effort into storylines or getting you vested into their wrestler. It's just a show. Do you feel the same way?
I think it depends on the promotion. Some promotions, run on a regular basis, so they have an opportunity to carry on storylines. You have some promotions that maybe run 4 times a year, so that's really not going to happen. You have some promotions that are based on bringing like legends in, so they're not building for the future. They're like more nostalgia type shows. It sort of depends on the promotion. But I'll tell you that one advantage that they do have, if they do run on a regular basis, is to be able to put their product online to capture people and to get people involved in their storylines. It used to be that if you weren't on broadcast television, then there would be no way to do that. So at least there's an inexpensive way to communicate with your fans and to show them your product. And I think Eric Bischoff has started some kind of a consortium of independent wrestling organizations, so you can go on and you can follow what's going on with them. That's a good thing, because it's a more democratic way of, so you can see my product, even though I'm not a millionaire.
You mentioned Eric Bischoff. We're going to segue into your transition from the WWF to WCW in just a second. But as Michael was bringing up the independence, that just reminded me of this one question I've been meaning to ask you. It actually plays part in a later topic we're going to mention on the show once this interview has concluded. What is your opinion nowadays of the business not being as protected and as being as out in the open compared to, back then? Because back then I hear how everything's hush hush and quiet, and kayfabe was kept in order, and secrets were secrets, and nothing was easily accessible. While today any fan can go on the internet and see pictures of like Bray Wyatt skiing, or Rusev, who's supposed to be a big Russian monster, country dancing at some bar in Tennessee. What is your opinion on that change in the business?
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think overall it makes a performer's job more difficult, but then again, he's or she is responsible for what's out there on social media. I think it depends on who your character is. I think that anyone, like take a Strowman, who's billed as a monster that can't be stopped. If he goes online and he puts a video online of him country dancing or playing on his living room floor with his daughter, I don't even know if he has a daughter, but I'm just saying, I just think he's undermining his own success.
Right.
If
don't you think the mystique makes the star?
That's what he would be destroying.
Mm-hmm.
The mystique.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. And so why would you do that?
Right.
Unless you have the mentality, which I don't follow, that that's no different than like a movie star who portrays, let's say, James Bond, and he isn't really like that in person. But if you desire to get a visceral reaction from the crowd, a reaction from their gut, to react to what you're doing, it's not the same as playing James Bond in a movie. You are that persona, like in the public's eye whenever you're out there. To me, that is a much more effective character.
I completely agree. All right, back to your career? We're at the point where you make the transfer from the Worldwide Wrestling Federation over to WCW. How did that get started?
You missed a couple steps.
Oh, did I really? Apologies.
I actually, when I finished with the McMahons, I started doing the ESPN show for AWA. So it was the first national broadcast that I had. It was the first time that pro wrestling was ever broadcast on a legit sports network, like ESPN. At the time, the McMahon started to invade other territories, including the AWA territory and the NWA territory. So the AWA and the NWA got together, and they started promoting as one promotion called Pro Wrestling USA with their own TV show, and they invaded the Northeast. And that's how I started to work for the NWA along with the AWA. I was actually working for all three at the same time for a very short period of time.
Gary, how different was it working with Senior against Vern Gagne?
Well, Senior and Vern Gagne were of the same generation. I personally had no problem with either of them. Vern especially took good care of me. I had no qualms with him. Senior, it's always been in the McMahon background to have a desire to totally control the people that work for them, and they would do it by making you feel insecure. And having read Justin Roberts' book, which recently came out, it just seems like they continue to do that. Not that I have some qualms with what I read, but nevertheless, the general tenor of what Justin talks about is very much the same as 40 years ago, which is incredible to me.
But do you think maybe that's a formula for success? I mean, both WCW, AWA, they've got run out of business, and well, I wouldn't say AWA as much as WCW, but WCW lost control of their talent, and that ended up being the end of all, right?
Yeah, no. That's you can treat your talent well and still be successful. You don't have to demean your talent. You don't have to make your talent feel like they're worthless, other than the top 10%, of your superstars. You don't have to keep people on pins and needles. I mean, there are plenty of businesses. Wrestling isn't like different from other businesses in the sense that there are many businesses that treat their employees well, and they're very successful. There's nothing that, if you step out of line and you're working with the WWE, they can get rid of you. That's fine, and that should be. I don't have a problem with that. So it's not like they would be overtaken by the talent. They're still in control, and they should be. But they can be in control and still make you feel worthwhile.
So there was definitely a clear difference between Vern and McMahon, right? So Vern kind of just let you guys go your own way, and McMahon's had you under their thumb, basically, is what you're saying?
Yeah, Vern was, he actually spoke to me like I was like an adult human being. We would have conversations, and he didn't have to, and I didn't expect it, and it wasn't absolutely necessary, but he would ask my opinion about certain things, and I appreciated that, but he never once did he ever make me feel like I was insignificant. And it's kind of, in order for you to be a boss, for instance, I was with WWF, now WWE, for 11 years. How insignificant could I have been if I continued to work for that organization for 11 years and be their top TV announcer for 8 of those years? Well, I knew my value. I'm just telling you how he treated me and how he tried to make me feel.
Well, you had huge value. You had huge value for someone that grew up watching you. again, you were like, I'd call like a demigod, man. You rocked it. So I totally get where you're coming from there.
And yet I knew my place. And yet I knew that I was never to be the focus of attention. I know that I was a second banana. I was a supporting player. I never sold a ticket. And that's all true. I was a very minor supporting player. But I think whether you're working the lights or the camera, you're a supporting player or you're a headliner, you're a human being. You should be treated a certain way.
So could we quickly how you doing? Okay, can you hang in there a little bit longer?
Well, now you're getting me agitated, so my heart's starting to go.
Well, and on that note, we'll be wrapping things up here with the legend. Want to mention real quick. Actually, I want to ask about two more things real quick. Your book, Wrestling Memoirs, Memoirs of a Wrestling Legend. What's it called again? Your book?
It's called Body Slams.
Body Slams. Memoirs of a Wrestling
Pitchman.
Okay. Is this book still available to the public, sir?
Yeah, you can still. Yeah, absolutely. It's Amazon. BarnesandNoble.com. You can order it from any bookstore.
Okay. And before we get to the final question, where can people reach you? Like, if someone wants to book you, or if a fan wants to reach out and say hello, where can somebody do that?
Probably the best place would be Facebook, where you'd go to the page, my initials, GMC, the number 4, real, GMC for real.
GMC for real at Facebook if you want to follow Mr. Gary Michael Capetta, legendary arena announcer from the WWF, WCW, NWA, and AWA days. Mr. Capetta, I want to thank you again for calling in. I hope this interview wasn't a waste of time to you. Before we let you go, we have one final question. For any up-and-coming ring announcer in the wrestling business, whether it be on the independents or starting out on TV at WWE, Impact Wrestling, or wherever, what is your advice to somebody new to the game in that field?
The way you get better, the way you create your own path, your own style, is to just get out there and do it. Every opportunity that you have, doesn't matter whether 10 people sitting in the audience or 1,000 people sitting in the audience. Just get out and do it as much and as often as you can. And listen to the people. Listen to the reaction to what you're doing and saying. And never forget what you were thinking and feeling when you were sitting in the third row. Never forget, and this is for not just announcers, but any performer. Not only in wrestling, but in music, in theater. Just always remember what affected you and what hooked you. And don't never lose that perspective, because that's who your audience is. That's who you're playing to. That's who you're trying to affect. I won't say please, because sometimes you want to anger them.
Yeah.
But that's who you're trying to affect. Now you guys are based in New York, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Because I am bringing my stage show to Queens, New York in November. So maybe I'll come visit you again when we get closer to the date. I'm going to be at the Queens Theater on Saturday, November the 11th, with my Beyond Body Slam stage show.
Okay.
Telling a whole bunch of stories. It's got music. It's got giant screen video, so you can see what I'm talking about.
Where can people purchase tickets?
Eventbrite.com. Tickets, well, you're national, so you're international, so let me just run it down, if I may. Real quickly, I'm going to be in Atlanta on October 13th, and I'm going to be in Tampa on October 14th. I'm going to be in Orlando with the show on October 15th, that weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then I'm going to be in Asbury Park, New Jersey on Saturday, October 28th.
Hometown show.
And then I'm going to be in Louisville, Kentucky on Saturday, November 11th. And I wind up in New York City at Queens Theater, Queens, New York, out by the Corona Park, the World's Fair, site. I'll be at Queen's Theater on Saturday, November 11th with my stage show.
Well, sir, around that date, you are more than welcome to come visit us in the studio. We'd be happy to have you. Before we let you go, Michael has one more thing to ask.
Gary, I'm going to hold you to coming in the studio, but if you could just send us out with an I am Gary Michael Capetta.
I'm going to hold that because I don't want to boom. I'm not even supposed to be on. I'm not even supposed to be doing an interview tonight.
Oh.
Ooh. Well, I appreciate you coming on the
Well,
John Sawyer Show.
That makes this extra special. Thank you, sir.
You really don't want to like pop the stint they just put in my heart.
Ah, okay.
All right, well, get well. We're glad everything worked out, and we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. It's been fun. Thank you.
It has been. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gary Michael Capetta, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, that was an incredible interview.
Yeah. Very
He
good
was
guy.
engaging. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. So, it is currently...
And we're back.
We're back. Hello again. It is currently 7:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're just tuning in, this is the John Sawyer Show right here on Strong Island TV. You just missed an exclusive live interview with legendary wrestling ring announcer Gary Michael Capetta, best known from the WWF days with Vince McMahon Sr., along with WCW, NWA, and AWA. Before we go on to a topic that Mike wants to bring up, let's check the live feed real quick to see who's watching and what you guys have to say. Browsing. This will not take too long. Michael, say something.
Here, I got one.
Oh, you got one?
I got one.
Okay.
Mike, you're awesome. Wait a minute, hold us another. Where's JoJo?
You're looking at the home screen on your phone.
Don't call me out like that. Oh, look, the phone's ringing. Where's JoJo? JoJo Radio.
Where's JoJo?
John Sawyer Show. Who's this? Oh, it's the same guy from last week.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where is he?
He called. There was a guy who called in last week. We answered. All we could hear were our echoes, like
Okay.
in the background, and then he eventually hung up.
All right.
So,
So let's just get into it, right?
yeah,
So
let's just get into
got like
the
a half
topic.
an hour to go.
First, let's kill the phone
So
line.
I was out for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
You guys did a fantastic performance. I thought the whole Lincoln Park suicide conversation was excellent.
Yeah.
I was highly impressed. I thought it was engaging.
Mm-hmm.
I thought JoJo's conversation about his mouse wasn't so engaging.
Just hold that for a second
Okay.
right there, because this guy is calling again. Let's see if he answers. If we get nothing, we're killing the phone line for the rest of the show.
Let's keep it on. We'll get somebody.
Hello, John Sawyer Show. Who's this? Hello?
Hi, John.
Hi, who's this?
It's your best friend.
It's your best friend calling. What's your name?
Katie wants to know how she can get a shirt.
They'll be on sale on August 14th, 25 apiece. So tell her to buy one. This is my friend Tara calling in, by the way. Yeah.
Right back. Oh,
A huge Ryback mark if you haven't figured it out. All right. Anything you'd like to include? We were right in the middle of something. What?
what?
Anything you'd like to include? We were right in the middle of something.
Now, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
All right, bye.
That was a
So-
friend of mine. She just wanted to call. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
All right,
So let's get back
continue.
into it, right? So anyway, Joe is absent today. He wasn't feeling well. He'll be back next week. We miss you, Joe.
Yes, Joey.
I don't know if the views without you are going to be as high, but I'm assuming they would since I'm probably the number one co-host on the show. But we know this, right? Anyway, let's get back. So you're getting hot on social media, right? You got a lot of things going on. What's going on in your head, brother?
Now, what do you mean by hot?
Man, you're just throwing stuff out there. That whole suicide deal you had going on. Then you were twittering out today about wrestling. What's going on with that whole deal?
Oh, yeah.
So what? You looking at old wrestling matches and someone started throwing shit down on you, or what?
not exactly. I'm very self-critical about my work, whether it be in the ring, doing this, or any stuff I've did in acting. You know, I'm always my biggest critic, and I guess you can say sometimes I'm a little too hard on myself. Earlier today, I had some time to kill, so I'm on my computer, and saved in the drafts on my computer is some footage from past matches, you know, that I've had. Some of which you can see on the internet right now, and some of which have yet to be posted. And I remember just looking through some of the videos and just thinking, God, I look so disgusting. You know, just you know, like with the way I carried myself, with the way I threw certain moves.
Wasn't that the shtick though? It was like the Wild Man, right?
The Wild
Boondock guy, right?
Well, that was the shtick, but I wasn't supposed to look like some retarded kid with a hunchback in his neck. You know what I mean? There's things that wrestlers see.
Wait a minute, can you say retard on the air? Is that okay?
It's my show. It's TVMA.
Oh, fine.
There's things that wrestlers see. I'm probably going to catch a lot of shit for that
You
one.
probably are.
There's things that wrestlers see when looking back their matches or looking at any match that fans don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like, I could show, you know, you or anyone one of my matches, and you probably think it's fantastic. Meanwhile, I can spot out at least 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 things I did wrong. You know, any wrestler who pays attention to their crafts and who understands the business and, you know, just like treats it seriously, you know, they're like that. Eddie Guerrero was like that, and I can name plenty of other guys who were like that. So I just kept, you know, watching closely through each, you know, tape and just being quite disgusted with myself. So, you know, I felt like venting, and it was nothing serious. So I just went on Facebook and was like, God, you know, and, you know, and what I said was true. If I had learned and known earlier in my career, like around 2011, 2012, what I had learned within the final 8 months of my career, I would have been amazing. The last 8 months of my career, I was with the NYWC, New York Wrestling Connection, probably the top school/company on Long Island. And, you know, it was there where I finally learned, you know, okay, this is the right way to do things. While before...
Phone ringing?
Oh, would you look at that?
Hold on,
Yes.
the phone's ringing.
Should we answer this?
Yeah, hit it. Why not?
All right.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all right.
We'll get back to it.
John Sawyer Show. Who's this?
Hello,
Hi, who's this?
Robert,
Hey, Robert. Where you calling from?
Suffolk County, last week.
Oh,
Michael, you bastard, how you doing?
Hey, look, it's that piece of shit that said I was missing a tooth. Thanks for calling back, pal. Yeah,
That's
enough balls to
right.
call back when I'm on live, right?
Yeah,
So, what did you have to say now? Would you just call me a fat bastard?
yeah. Come on, man.
Is the show more entertaining with me here?
Yeah, you know what? I think it is a little bit. Just because, you know, I get that missing tooth, and come on, can you shine it for me?
I'm trying. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, I can't. Hold on.
Wait a
the
minute.
thing-
Hold on.
I can't see
Hold
you.
on, though. Can you do me a favor, though? What's your name again? Robert?
Yeah.
Can you check your mother's twat for my missing tooth?
Oh,
Because that's where it is right now. Can you get that back to me? You can send it first-class mail if you'd like, because I got to get it back implanted.
yeah. I'm sorry. I can't send it first class mail because my boss is a dick. I don't make enough money to send it first class.
Yeah, I get it.
Rob, I want to apologize for Joe blowing up on you last week. He had a lot of Chinese food, so he was very hyper and very...
Well, wait a minute. Hold on, Robert.
Rob, stick around, buddy.
Robert, what are you thinking about this new John Sawyer T-shirt? You want to wear this thing or what?
I actually haven't seen it. I don't.
I'm putting it up. Are you watching live now?
Yeah.
Can you see it now? Are
Yeah, I can see it.
Are you marking
Oh.
out for this T-shirt right now?
Hold on. My video's a little behind, so I can't see it yet.
Can you see it?
There we go.
What do you think? Would you wear that on your back?
You know what? Hang on a
On my
second.
back?
Hold it up. I'm going to try and zoom the camera in. Bobby, it's cool if I zoom the camera? Bobby will do it.
Would you want to wear this, Robert? That's what I'm asking you. Do you want me to speak
Okay,
another
yeah,
language for
if-
you?
If that's
I know
if
you
that's on
sound
the
pretty
back-
stupid.
If that's on the back and you put your face on the front, smiling with no tooth, yeah, I'll wear it.
That's the back right there. That's the back, and Bobby, show him the front. There you go. Logo on the front left titty. right over there.
Robert, we're going to have to send you a shirt, man. You sound like our biggest fan.
Yeah, I am your biggest fan.
I know you're my biggest fan, but we got to make you the biggest fan of the John Sawyer show. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think of JoJo? Do you think he gets more views when he's on alone with John, or when I'm on with John, or when we're all three together? What do you think?
That's hard to say. I think when you're all three together, you're something special. Let me tell you that.
Well, let me ask you this.
Thank you, Robert.
Let me ask you this, Robert. When the show's over and then you can watch it on a continuous loop, do you just circle my voice and just close your eyes and think nasty thoughts?
Well, I don't want nightmares, so I try not to just focus on your voice.
That's not a very nice thing to say, Robert. So at this
Well, I like to think we're all friends here.
Oh, really? That's good. That's good, Robert. There's one thing I could tell you. I would never be your friend. That's for sure.
That's nice to know. A lot of people say that to me, but I don't let it get to me. I just still be their friend.
I could imagine. I could imagine.
The guy's got a good attitude. I like that.
Well, Robert, do me a favor. Call next week when JoJo comes back. JoJo's going to apologize to you because it seemed he scared you a little bit when I was watching it. Were you scared?
No.
Did you go nuzzle? Did you go nuzzle up to mommy and say JoJo scared me? Mommy.
No.
Mommy,
No, I
I'm
actually
scared.
went. I ran around a building like 13 times just to blow off some steam.
I get
Oh,
that.
so you're a runner, or you just need time to kill?
I just needed time to kill. I got
Well,
nothing.
let me
to
ask. Let me ask this one final question for you, Robert. Were you offended when John used the word retard on the air?
Did I get offended?
Yeah, I know your whole family's retard, so I thought maybe it's probably bothering you.
Well, you know what? Now you mention it, no, it didn't bother me.
All right, that's good. That's good because
That's good.
John likes to use that word often, and we don't really want to offend you.
You don't got to bury me on my own show.
And one last thing, I'm gonna give you a little pop out, son. What do you think of those guns? What do you think? You love me, Robert?
Oh,
Look at Sawyer against
well-
Sawyer against Monty. Who's got big arms? Let's go. That's the vote. Come on, Robert, answer the question.
Hold on, the video's lagged. You got to give me a second.
Hurry up,
Come on, Robert.
Robert.
I don't know. All right, let me flip it. Let me see the other arm.
My arm's so big it's taking over the microphone.
No, I think you. Can we go by stomach? I think you got a big stomach. Mike.
At that point, Robert, fuck you. Good night.
Thanks for calling, buddy.
Nope.
All right, so
Robert.
Robert,
All right.
interesting fan.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the wrestling deal.
Yeah. I was just very self-critical about my matches, and then I got to thinking about the times where like that guy Ray called in, who's probably not Ray. It's probably this guy Evan who constantly attended my shows and acted like a total creep whenever he approached me at the merch table. This guy popped for me, by the way, getting suplexed on the floor more than anything I ever did
Right.
on the offensive thing. But, fans have reached out to me, some with good intentions, some with not so good intentions, asking, when are you going to come back, or if I'm going to come back, and,
Well, I'll tell you.
I mentioned on the show, I'm sorry to cut you
Go
off.
ahead.
I mentioned on the show that it's most likely not going to happen again. But, I was in a bit of a,
Look, I'll tell you this. I watched you work. All right, I've been to a couple of your shows. You're
Right.
you're a good worker, man. You're a serviceable worker. You're a good worker. I mean, you really should get back in the ring. I think it would be good.
I appreciate it. And, who knows what's going to happen down the road. But for right now, my plans
Yeah.
as for, what I'm supposed to do. And, those of you watching, you'll know some of the other stuff I have coming up real soon as far as show business is concerned. But yeah, I just, I just been venting about one of the things of wrestling that happened to me in wrestling that just really annoyed the crap out of me. I remember one instance, and I mentioned this on the air before. How much time do we have left, by the way?
Got about 10 minutes.
All right.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right, I'll mention this quickly. I worked a match with a kid who will remain nameless. Hit him a little too hard, and I got a lot of shit for it from the other pro wrestlers in the back. Meanwhile, this is coming from the same guys who did absolutely nothing and showed no care whatsoever when I got the back of my head busted open and sent to the emergency room about a year prior. So it's like you're being all supportive for this one kid, yet you wouldn't care if if the roles were reversed. That always confused me. It's almost like there's a lot of favoritism going on behind the scenes. Another thing is I would get suggestions, and I love the fans, don't get me wrong. If you ever supported me throughout any aspect of my career and still support me, I highly thank you. But there are some people who are just that, ticket buying fans, and they would feel the need to overstep the boundaries like they're in the business with me and give me advice on how to do things. Like I've had fans tell me how to cut promos. I've had fans tell me what to wear in the ring, what to say, how to walk, how to talk, how to act, how to conduct a move. And I'm like, shut up. Until you've gone through what I went through and put your body through what I put my body through, then you have the right, to talk to me as if we're on an even playing field in pro wrestling. But other than that, you're just a fan, and I'm not bashing any fans. I'm not taking any shots at pro wrestling. I love the fans, and I always will love pro wrestling. But some of these guys, it's like that old saying, there's always going to be someone to tell you how to do your
but
job.
when you're in a public eye, man, you got to let shit roll off your back. Man, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
And you got to believe in the talent you are, right? You're doing this radio show, right? And,
Yeah.
and it's picking up momentum. Every week it's picking up momentum.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people on there saying, JoJo, you suck. Mike, you're great. I get that, right? I understand that.
You're still putting yourself
Right?
up.
But this is the way it is. One thing before we cut off, one thing I did want to cover, and it's a little late in the show, and Gary Michael Capetta was awesome.
Yes. Yes.
Great to have on the show.
Thanks again to Gary for calling in.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. So Chester commits suicide. So I'm $1 late and a penny short. But you made a comment, when someone's talented like that, it's a shame, that they take their own life. So, we could discuss this next week, but we should probably keep it on wrestling. But the one thing I did not understand is, my point was, if anyone's not talented and they take their life, does that make them any less?
No, absolutely not. I'm just referring to, Chester and what he meant as a human being, to millions of people, because, it's one thing, for him to be, it's one thing for a father and a husband, to do a selfish act like that, but it's another thing when literally millions of people across the planet look up to this guy. You know what I mean? So it's like the loss almost grew in tenfold. I mean, look at when, what's his face passed away? Eddie Guerrero. Mm-hmm. Not saying he committed suicide. I mean, he
kind of did, right?
Well, his death was
I mean,
in
if
his own
you're
hands.
going to inject yourself with drugs on a regular basis, just like it's suicide.
I mean, his death was kind of in his own hands, but this wasn't a regular human being, doing this act. And I'm not taking anything away from anyone out there who has lost a loved one to suicide or drug abuse. It's a terrible thing, and I'm not holding these guys on a pedestal above the people, you may know. I'm just explaining how, like, it's more of a loss when you're in the public. I'm probably going to end up sounding terrible.
No, you don't sound terrible, okay? But that's the point I wanted to bring up, right?
Yeah.
Of course, when someone's in a public eye and they pass away, it seems to be, it's more direct. It affects people more, right? They see it.
That's what I meant.
Prince, Kurt Cobain. The list is long and long and long.
That's what I meant.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But I want you to chew on this for next week, right? Everybody, at some point in their life, thinks about suicide, right? They probably want to give it up, right?
I was one of them. I know exactly. Yeah.
And this is where maybe I'll get in trouble, right? When you have children or you have a family, there's a big part of me that feels like that's, it's selfish, right? It's selfish. And, we could chew on that for next week. I don't want to get too deep with 3 minutes left because it's probably in for a long conversation. So I want to just re-promote the shirt.
Yes.
We want people wearing the John Sawyer shirt. I think I
Yes.
got it angled right.
That's the back.
Maybe that's the back.
Show them the front.
And you got the front.
They're going on sale August 14th to the public, and on the 13th we'll be holding a live pro wrestling trivia show. We're currently looking for 4 contestants. Winner gets a shirt of their choosing. They're available from sizes large up to 3X in colors from black, gray, and dark blue. I'm going to wrap it up right now because Bobby's right on the edge of hitting the go off the air button. My name is John Sawyer. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnSawyer1993. He's Michael Monty. Thank you all for watching. We will see you.
And just don't forget about JoJo'sWrestling.com.
Yes, go to that. We'll see you next week.